Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tavern Adjacent. We're back for another solo podcast. It's been a few weeks since we've done one of these. It's been group podcasts for a while, group podcasts. It's been collaborations for a bit, so it's been a little while since I got to talk to you guys, one on a few thousand, but still, thank you all for coming to today's episode of Tavern Adjacent. If you haven't seen, last week we had Crit Crab, and the week before that we had Bob Wildbuilder on the show, which was really, really cool to have those guys here. I'm a big fan of their content, of course, and it was really cool to have them on the show. We've collabed with them before, and I liked having them here back on Crispy's Tavern, even on a new podcast. But anyway, today is an interesting day. It's cold here where I live, which is interesting considering that where I live, it's typically 80 to 100 degrees or more than that. So I feel like this place doesn't have a right to be 30-some degrees. It's very annoying. My wardrobe was not equipped for this. I need to grab gloves urgently. I was on my morning ride, I guess, through the city. I take a scooter through the city in the mornings, and it was freezing. It was so cold. It's not that cold. Like 30-some degrees, you can survive. You can very easily survive. But without gloves, it can get pretty frigid on the digits, which was not fun. Definitely need to improve on that front. And so, yeah, I'm going to be heading to the market like right after this to grab some gloves. But that is a whole side tangent that I'm complaining about because it was very inconvenient this morning. But anyway, today we've got a lot to talk about. We've got Legend of Vox Machina, which premiered. Very, very, very exciting. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the D&D movie since that's on my mind. And also in that same segment, we're going to be talking about the D&D Lego set because those are two things that we talked about a bit ago and never got to really expand upon those points. But now we can. And then we'll end off with some voicemails and a new thing, which will be very, very exciting at the end of the show. So, yeah, guys, without further ado, let's get into Legend of Vox Machina. So, if you guys don't know, last year? I think it was last year. It might have been 2 years ago. I can't exactly, pinpoint the exact date of the first season of Legend of Vox Machina. Time is an illusion that I can never keep grasp of in my mind. The point is, I watched the first season entirely with Crit Crab, which was really fun. I didn't get to do that this year just because we're both really busy, but I watched the first episode solo in my room very late at night, and good God, it was so, so, so good. I had high hopes for this season. I mean, first and foremost, I had high expectations for the show, not just because I'm a big Critical Role fan, but also because I am a big fan of pretty much everyone that they had working on this project. Everyone who was working on Legend of Vox Machina, I was a fan of. The character designer, the music, the writing, everything I thought could have the potential to be really, really good. The story is already there. All you gotta do is take it and put it in animation. But there is a major problem because, like another show that we're going to talk about at the end of the episode, this show has to adapt something that's kind of long. Legend of Vox Machina has to adapt Critical Role Campaign 1, and each episode of that show is 4 hours. This show has 20 minutes per episode, which is a huge, huge leap. There's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to be made, which means, a lot of finesse required in the writing. And I think Season 1 pulled it off. Season 1 did a good job at adapting Critical Role. The animation was great, for the most part. The voice acting was incredible, because of course it is. And, the story was well adapted. It was the Briarwoods arc, and that led directly into Chroma Conclave. Chroma Conclave is the Dragons arc of Critical Role Campaign 1, where 4 giant dragons rain down upon the city of Amon, and it's all horrible and terrible, and Vox Machina need to band together to find legendary relics to defeat them in battle. Awesome, epic, amazing, love it. And I think that this is a great premise for a show. However, Chroma Conclave is long, and just first and foremost, they already made a good choice. I don't know if this is really a spoiler, but look, Chroma Conclave is being split in half. Season 2 is only going to cover the first half. Don't worry, Season 3 has already been greenlit. But yes, season 2 is just going to cover the first half of Chrono Conclave, while season 2 covers the back half, and that's such a good choice. This arc is really long, with a lot of characters, a lot of character moments for Vox Machina themselves, a lot of new guest characters coming in. We already see that, and to cram it all down to one season would be something. That would certainly be something. And I am really glad that Matt and the writing crew decided not to do that and decided to stick to having a bit of a longer story structure, which was a great move. It allows the show to not take the super fast pace that it had in the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes were kind of like the pilot premiere of Legend of Vox Machina, and they were a little bit condensed. They were very, very quick moving, and I thought that was good. I didn't think the pacing was horrible, but I did acknowledge, even at the time when I was like praising the hell out of season 1 of the show, I acknowledged at the time, like, yeah, the pacing is really, really tight. And here they get, they have tight pacing, but at the same time they can slow down a little bit. We can have a few more character moments, which is so integral here. Now, I was kind of debating on how much spoiler I want to put into this segment, and I've decided that I will spoil the first 3 episodes of Legend of Vox Machina Season 2, the ones I'm talking about, the ones I've seen, but I won't talk about anything past Legend of Vox Machina Season 2. So I won't use my Critical Role Campaign 1 knowledge to like spoil the ending of the season or anything like that. Or at least I'll try my best. I really, really hope I succeed in that endeavor. But like first and foremost, let's just talk about presentation, because, when you're talking about a show, I think presentation is important. I think it's really, really important. When you're trying to do a visual story, the visuals matter. And here, the visuals are great. The style is incredible. The character designs continue to be awesome. I mean, I knew the character designs would be awesome because it's the same guy who did Young Justice character designs, I believe. And he's amazing. He did such a good job in Season 1 of Critical Role Legend of Vox Machina. And he did such a good job here in Season 2. It's so refreshing to see these characters in this animated style, especially since, I'm going to be honest, guys, the teaser trailer for Season 1, way back when it was just a Kickstarter, the Kickstarter trailer, the character designs were bad. They were really not good. I did not like those designs, especially Scanlan. Scanlan is so much better in the actual show when compared to the preview. If you go back and watch that preview, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, some of these character designs have aged very well. Back then, they were rough. Like Percy also. Percy had a way worse outfit design for his coat. And here, he's much more elegant, much more like it looks like how I imagine Percy, whereas the Percy in the teaser just looked kind of weird to me. But the point is, that's the teaser. Season 2, we not only get the character designs that were so awesome in Season 1, but we get new character designs coming in. We had Zara and Kasha, who both look so damn good, as well as all the dragons. Now, this was a stickling point for me. My big worry was the dragons, because in Season 1 of the show, I'm not gonna lie, the dragon design for our big man Brimscythe in Season 1, the big bad blue dragon, not great. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful, but it certainly wasn't like what I'd call like excellent. And also, I think my camera's a little bit off. Can we just get it? Yep, right there. Awesome. That's a little bit. There we go. I'm a little bit more centered. I don't know what was going on there. I've been staring at my back screen for a while, and I'm like, I don't think that's right. Sorry though, I don't have my glasses, so I wasn't certain. But now, yes, this is much better. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Brimscythe from Season 1 of Legend of Vox Machina was a big blue dragon, and while I thought the design was okay at the time, I now have pivoted to thinking it is less okay. It's not bad, it's just not great. I don't even think it's good. It's like below average. Its jaw is just too chunky looking. It looks weird. I don't like the design of this blue dragon, especially since when the concept art was shown off in the behind the scenes, I thought he looked so much better there. And it seemed that they took that concept art and used it for these dragon designs. Thordak and the crew look so much better than Brimscythe. It's not even close. The green dragon, I'm going to say, my favorite design is actually Umbrasyl, the one that I think is the least memorable of the crew, because he's in an arc where another bad guy gets, in my opinion, a more epic moment, a more epic battle, so he kind of gets forgotten about sometimes. But Umbrasyl is the black dragon of the group, and he looks amazing. His design is awesome. I love like the thick neck for spitting acid. It reminds me of the billowbacks from Horizon Forbidden West, if you've played that game. I love this black dragon design. I love all these dragon designs. I like how their powers are, their elemental abilities are so plainly visible on their bodies. One thing about, especially in the official monster manual, is the dragons, they look good. Like, they're good dragon designs. All the dragons are well done. They look nice. But none of them, like, scream, wow, that's so cool. Like, there's no specific feature that makes me go like, oh, that's such a neat addition to this, classic fantasy monster. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon has tons of dragons, and all of them are pretty, none of them go out of their way to be crazy exotic. And that's okay. Like, they still look really, really cool. But especially for D&D, in this medium where, you can draw whatever, I find that these more, I don't want to say generic, but more vanilla designs are kind of disappointing. Here, though, in this, animated medium, we get these really eccentric designs for all of our big beasties. Vorugal, the Frigid Doom, has all these icicles growing all over his body with this really neat wing design where the wings go all the way back to his tail to kind of be like more like a bat, which I don't know if a bat is the right animal comparison to, but it looked more like a human glider to me, which I thought was really, really, really cool. Raishan is really snake-like and in her appearance, and I love, love, love how she sits very regal-esque, even though she's not the leader of the group. She has this presence that I like. Back to Umbrasyl, who I said was my favorite design. The thick, I already said, the thick, acid sack on his neck, amazing. But I also love his tattered wings, implying that, he himself has spilled acid on his own body sometimes, it's kind of screwed up his wings. Even though it doesn't make much sense, he's probably immune to acid damage. I thought it was still, a really cool addition. And then Thordak himself, he's the most dragon-looking of all the dragons. Obviously, Thordak, even in Campaign 1, the show, was described as having this big, jeweled heart on his neck, and that is retained. Though here, they take this, fairly normal, this, traditional-looking dragon and just turn him up to 11 by basically giving him Shin Godzilla, plasma breath that blows through the mountain and collapses the whole cloud top district of Iman. Fucking epic. Amazing. That scene was awesome. By giving him this souped up power, it just elevates his danger all the more and makes him just so much cooler. So yeah, I'm gushing about the dragons because they're the main focus of this arc, and I think they did a phenomenal job, especially when compared to, I was about to say Campaign 1, Season 1, where the dragon was kind of all right. Here, these dragons just blew me away. Amazing. So good. On top of that, the voice acting for all the dragons and all the characters, awesome. Obviously, a standout favorite for me was Lance Reddick as Thordak the Cinder King. Lance Reddick is one of my favorite actors just ever, period. I love him in Destiny as Commander Zavala. He gives such a great performance in a game where in-game storytelling can sometimes take a back seat. He just gives such a memorable performance as that character. I love him as Zavala. His voice is just awesome in general. I was so disappointed that the Resident Evil show is bad because Lance Reddick is such a good actor who deserves so much more. And that show sucked, which is why I was really disappointed because I was hoping that would be good so I would be able to see more of him in more live action stuff. But here, as the voice actor for Thordak, he brings such a great villainous voice. I've seen him as anti-heroes like Silence and just straight up protagonists like Commander Zavala, but here he's just bad. He's really bad. He's Thordak. He's the main bad guy. And damn it, his epic, I don't like using the word epic too much, but his epic, amazing, deep man voice booming through the titanic form of Thordak, who, by the way, is fucking ginormous. Thank God for that. Sorry, I'm cursing a lot in this video, YouTube algorithm. By the way, they age restricted me the other day. Well, not age restricted. They took away my monetization on the RPG Horror Stories episode. I didn't curse once, so I guess this video is just, I hope this video isn't doomed, So, anyway, sorry. Back to the point that I got distracted there for a moment. But anyway, his incredibly awesome voice booming through the gigantic design of Thordak, amazing. I will say, for his first line, he had a weird, I don't want to say accent, but I mean, maybe it was an accent. I don't know what he was intending when he was in the booth, like doing the voices for Thordak. But he had this weird cadence to his speech that I thought was kind of strange. Like, I was listening to it, and I was like, okay, it still sounds cool, but I just think his natural speaking voice would be better. And then in episode 2, he goes to his natural speaking voice, and it sounds so much better. It sounds awesome. So yeah, that's just like one minor critique. Now, I've already like praised all of obviously the Critical Role voice cast are amazing. Standout MVP, Liam O'Brien. Good God. There's an emotional scene at the very end. I mean, I'm spoiling the first 3 episodes. Vex dies, and Vax mourning her is just incredible. I like the dynamic between them a lot. As for the writing itself, because the voice acting is obviously good, the writing itself, also so good. They omitted a lot here, and I think they omitted the smart stuff. They omitted in a smart way, to the point where I think what they did was they're taking away a lot of Vox Machina's relationships from outside the party and kind of like condensing them down. So what that does is it allows Vox Machina to focus more on friendships within the group, which is good because we only have so much time. It's hard to develop 7 main characters just at base. Developing them and relationships with other people outside the group, yeah, that's not a task I envy, and that is not something I would think that the Critical Role writing, or whoever's writing this, I don't think it's something they want to do, so therefore they kind of like, they change up the relationships. Allura and Kima unfortunately take a back seat. Kashaw and Zara are more, not antagonistic, but more like, secondary antagonists to the party. I think that this works really well to flesh out the relationships between Vox Machina, the actual main characters, without distracting with all these extra characters. Obviously, I think we're still going to get their friendships. Like, Kima and Allura, I think, are going to be major parts of the story. We saw them in the trailer doing stuff, so I think they're going to be more involved. Gilmore is obviously still going to be the party's like main outside contact, and I think Cat did I just call him? Yeah, Kashaw. I almost forgot his name for a second, but Cash as in cash like money. Right. Kashaw and Zara are, I think, obviously going to come around. By this point in the original campaign, they were like buddies with Vox Machina, but here, Zara and Vex have a bisexual murder competition, which, we love to see that. I really like that relationship, that the implied relationship between them was really, really cool. It shows the power of subtle writing. Love it. These first 3 episodes, I could gush about all day, but they really blew me away. I was screeching like a child throughout the entire runtime, and I'm happy to say that I really, really enjoyed it. I've had just so many good shows to watch, and I'm really glad that I could add this one to the list. So yeah, I totally recommend it. If you guys have Amazon Prime, which I'm sure a lot of you do, watch this show. It's so worth your time. Even if you're not a Critical Role fan, even if you're not a D&D fan, if you're just a fantasy fan, I think this is just a great fantasy show. Whether you like D&D or whatever, it's just so damn fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes next. And I hope that you guys enjoy if you choose to watch. But yeah, there we go. There's Legends of Vox Machina. That's not the only tabletop adaptation going onto the screen. That's for TV. We've got a movie and a Lego set coming up. Words are hard. With that being said, let's get on to our, I guess we'll call them continuations from a few episodes prior. Took a little break to play some Geometry Dash, but I have returned. I am back now. But anyway, so let's first talk about the D&D movie trailer. So my opinion on the D&D movie, when we were talking about D&D going into other mediums in 2023 in episode 4 of the podcast, I think my main point was this. I think it's going to be fine. I think the movie's going to be okay. But something that I'm going to stand by is that. Like, I still think the movie's going to be okay. A lot of people are saying, like, wow, I think this is going to be way better than I expected. I am going to keep those expectations way down here. Right? We're going to keep them down here because, look, a lot of adaptations just end up being kind of all right. Like, I have a really... My like dread is that it's going to be a bad adaptation that's just going to suck. I really hope the movie just doesn't suck. Like, if it doesn't suck, I'll be happy. Obviously, I hope this movie is good. I hope, frankly, unless the movie is like fundamentally immoral, I hope most movies succeed because, I have family who work on films, and frankly, it's a miracle that any movie is good. The amount of just garbage that goes wrong in filmmaking is just unbelievable, to the point where anyone who says, like, God, I really wish this movie were just to fail. Like, again, unless the movie's fundamentally immoral, I just can't bring myself to say stuff like that, just because, I feel for the cast and crew who are working their butts off to make this happen. And I do hope this movie succeeds, if anything, just because of that. And also because I care about tabletop gaming, and I hope that, more people play these games. I want more people to play these games. D&D, Pathfinder, World of Darkness, whatever. These games are such awesome mediums to hang out with your friends and tell epic stories and, share memories that you're going to remember for a long, long time. And I want everyone to experience that. That's why I was so happy that, Stranger Things did that whole, like, D&D game with words are hard, B. Dave Walters. Names are hard this time. I thought that was really neat, and it introduced a lot of the people in my life into tabletop gaming and D&D. I thought that was awesome, and I hope that this movie does the same. I was actually talking to my dear father about this. Yes, I have parents. I know that may be shocking to some of you, but yes, I was talking to my dad about this over lunch. We got some sushi, and we were discussing this, and he actually thinks that this movie isn't going to bring too many people to D&D, and his logic is not wrong. Like, he shares basically my same opinion that a Let's Play of The Last of Us is better advertisement for The Last of Us than the show. And, like, spoiler, we're going to talk about that show in a second, because I have a lot to say, because I really like it. But even though the show, in my opinion, is phenomenal, it's not the game. People aren't going to be persuaded to play the game because they watch the show. They're going to watch the show and be satisfied. Like, the vast majority of the audience are going to be just satisfied with the show. And because D&D is even more of a niche medium, and tabletop gaming in general is a pretty niche medium, it's going to be interesting to see how this movie translates into, like, success of tabletop. Because the reason Critical Role did something, for Dungeons and Dragons, is because Critical Role is a bunch of people playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's heightened Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, these are people who are really, 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 really good, but at their core of the game, like, what we're watching is a bunch of people rolling dice and playing D&D. That is great advertisement. The same thing with, like, a Let's Play. Minecraft took off not because of a movie, but because of a bunch of Let's Plays on YouTube, because a bunch of kids were watching people play this game and thinking, I want to do that. Do you think Minecraft Story Mode did that for the game? No. Minecraft Story Mode, I don't think, was nearly as good advertising for Minecraft as something like Dan TDM doing a Minecraft mod review, because every kid's gonna watch that and go, oh my god, I want to have a mutant skeleton in my Minecraft game, and they're gonna download Minecraft and figure out how to mod it, blah 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 blah. I'm just retelling my life story, but point is, that kid was me, in case you didn't catch on to that. But my point is that the D&D movie is not people playing D&D. It's like an interpretation of what D&D is like in our imaginations, which I think is just, it's not as solid of a concept as what Hasbro is trying to do here, and what I'm almost 99% sure they're trying to do here, is they're trying to get a Lego movie. Like, the thing that knocked Hasbro out of their spot in the toy industry was the Lego movie. The Lego movie annihilated them. Well, okay, I'm not going to say annihilated, but it boosted Lego big time, past Hasbro, past anything they could have dreamed, because the Lego movie, one, was really, 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 really great. I love the Lego movie. It's a great, great movie. Obviously, I don't know if you can see it back there, but I like Lego in general a lot. But beyond that, like, I thought it was a really great movie. And on top of that, I think that the Lego movie also, like, it presents Lego stuff. Like, I can buy Lego sets from the Lego movie as a product. On top of that, Lego is just really simple to get into. Like, if a kid were to ask me, how do I get into Dungeons and Dragons? I think it's not as complicated as a lot of people think it is. It's not as complicated to get into tabletop as a lot of people think it is. Like, you can learn Pathfinder or D&D, maybe not, I mean, there's a few games that are a little bit more complicated, but, like, those are the two main ones a lot of people are thinking about right now. Those games are not, they're not an insurmountable mountain, but it is a little bit of a climb. Not a lot, but a little bit. However, when you compare that little bit of a climb to, like, Jimmy, who just watched the Lego movie, what's he have to do to get into Lego? Well, his mom buys him a toy, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. That's it. Like, do you get my point? Like, I think that if Hasbro wants that goal, because I'm pretty sure that's their ideal, I think that is not going to happen. Like D&D doesn't translate as well. Like even something like The Last of Us has a closer translation between like show to game. In fact, it's a much closer translation. Now, all this to say, this is all like business stuff. Whether or not I think D&D is it's popular as is, and obviously I hope that more people play it or play any tabletop game, frankly. But I'm not too worried about the business side. I just want to watch a good movie. Like if I buy a ticket to a movie, I want it to be good. I will never understand people who get tickets to a film and are like, God, I'm ready to hate this. Why the hell are you there? What's the point? Like I'm jealous of people who like movies I don't like. Because if I liked the movie, I wouldn't have wasted 2 to 3 hours watching it. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's a whole rant for another day. Point is, I watched the new trailer and thought it looked just as good as the last one, which means the trailer looks good. But you know what? I really liked the trailer for Black Widow, and I did not like that movie. So, that and many other films have taught me the lesson of trailers don't mean anything, especially since I know a trailer editor who does a lot of work for Disney. So I really know that trailers don't mean anything. The movie can be way better than the trailer or way worse than the trailer. So, yeah, we'll still need to wait and see. Now, that's our first. By the way, I realized while I was playing Geometry Dash during my break that it's called a follow-up. So yeah, that was our first follow-up story. The second follow-up story is Lego. So Lego did a D&D set for Lego Ideas, and the one I wanted to win won Dragon's Keep with 3,000 pieces, which is going to be very exciting. Now, I have another, I don't know, is it up? I don't think it's not visible, but on the second shelf, you can see the second shelf, but you can't see what's on it. I have the Jazz Band, the Jazz Quartet Lego set, which is another Lego Ideas set, and they did change it. All the Lego Ideas sets are changed from fan design to finalized product. That's just kind of how, that is just the business. So we don't know what the Dragon's Keep set's going to look like. It could be massively downscaled. And there's a part of me that kind of wants that. Because 3,000 pieces, and this is being generous. 3,000 pieces is $300, which, yeah, for a lot of people, that's just not accessible, And to be fair, I don't think it's just going to be D&D people who buy this set. A lot of Lego fans, and, I say this as a Lego fan as well. Lego fans want a lot more medieval stuff. Like, we got the Lion's Castle for a Lego anniversary, which was this big, giant castle set, but it was really expensive, and also it had like a very bright theming. We haven't gotten a gritty, medieval set, and it's Lego. It's not gonna be that gritty, but like a darker theme. Since I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember a darker medieval theme since Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Like those themes were based on movies that had a little bit of a darker aesthetic, and I thought that they translated shockingly well into Lego. So damn well. Like I still have my, oh god. Sorry. I still have my Lord of the Rings Lego set on my shelf outside, and there's a reason why. I thought they were really cool. And this Dragon's Keep set, the aesthetic of it, calls back to that aesthetic to me very well. Like it's a bit more of a muted tone, which I like. The dragon design for the green dragon just looks cool. Like whether or not you know what a green dragon is, or you play Dungeons & Dragons, doesn't matter. It's a dragon, it looks cool. The beholder's a cool looking monster. The minifigs look nice. I think people who are just into Lego are gonna like this set. But even for Lego fans, again, $300, not very accessible. So while I don't want them to dumb down the set, I will grudgingly accept if they reduce the piece count and make it something like $200 to open it up a bit more. The set itself just looks awesome as is, but I know changes are going to be made. I really hope, since this is a licensed set, there is a part of me that is dreading this. But damn, like Lego, I don't know if this is something I call it. I call it the licensing tax. No, it's not OGL related. But sorry, that's a terrible joke. But the licensing tax in Lego's terms is, when Lego does a non-original intellectual property, something like Star Wars or Jurassic World, the price is just naturally going to be higher because it is not original. Like Ninjago sets are generally going to be cheaper than a Star Wars set. Though recently, especially with Ninjago Crystallized, it turned out not to be true. Ninjago sets were also super stupid expensive, which was really annoying. And some Star Wars sets were actually more affordable, which was really interesting. Not complaining though. I have a Star Wars set that was I found very affordable right there. The Bad Batch shuttle from the show The Bad Batch. But anyway, back to the point. I'm really excited for the Lego Ideas D&D set. I really hope that they don't dumb it down too much. I hope that they keep that, more muted look from the original design, because again, we get a lot of bright aesthetics with Lego, which is obviously good. These are children's toys at the end of the day. They are meant primarily for kids, and I will always, acknowledge that. I'm not trying to take that away, but I do like, variety. And really, the main thing that I'm dreading is where the hell am I going to put this thing? Like, the last $300 set I got was the Lego Ninjago City Gardens, which I have on its own dedicated table. Like, I put nothing else on that side table other than that garden set. So, I don't know if I'm going to need to get another one of those or something, but at this point, like, I have a lot of Lego. Not as much as some other people, okay? My collection's pretty humble compared to some other people. But for me, a guy who lives in a one-bedroom apartment, I got a living room, I got kitchen, I got my bedroom. Lego's not going in the kitchen, not happening. The bedroom is mostly office stuff. Like, these are the first decorations I've put up in here for the entire duration of my life in this home. And the living room is the only place for Lego, and right now it's getting a little overstuffed. So I'm kind of dreading what I'm gonna do with Dragon's Keep once because I'm gonna get it, like, obviously, unless something horrible happens and, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to, like, invoke bad juju, but unless something horrible happens, like, I'm getting the set, so I have to figure that out one of these days. I've got to figure out where to put this thing, but that is a challenge for another day, for future Crispy to overcome. But yeah, there you go. That's my my follow-ups on the D&D movie and the Lego D&D set. Very exciting, very cool. I am looking forward to that Lego D&D set. It's going to be one of the only official licensed D&D products I ever get, because I honestly get most of these books for just aesthetic purposes. And honestly, the covers of the new books don't really catch my eye, so I don't get them, because I never use official books, almost ever. If you're wondering why I am always so like wishy-washy on the rules, it's because I barely read these things, and sometimes I just kind of forget the rules of the book, though luckily I have players to remind me. But that's a whole thing for another day. My relationship with the rules of Dungeons and Dragons is a whole thing for another time. But that is the end of my follow-ups. You know what time it is? It's time to see what you guys have for voicemails. Alright, you sorry fools. Let's see what you have for me today.
Hi, Crispy. My name is Miri. I've been a fan of your channel for a really long time. I have a bit of a problem in a game that I run for some of my friends. One of my friends is a really great person. She's a great role player, but she has a tendency to be really sensitive to criticism. And there's been a problem that we've been having. I've gotten some complaints from a couple of the other players, and I've noticed this myself, where she has recently taken the role of party leader. She was nominated by the other characters, and she's become really bossy and has been shutting down other players' ideas just because she doesn't like them or doesn't think that they're the right thing to do, and has also been sort of dictating the party's actions to them. And I'm trying to figure out how to bring this up with her in a way that, like I said, she can be really sensitive to criticism, and I don't want her to think that I don't like her as a person or whatever. I just would like to see this behavior not continue and, have her be a little less dictatorial to the other party members. I hope you can help me. Thank you for listening.
So those are all like great. That's a great question. Basically, your story definitely resonates with me. I do want to clarify something like before we start because I am not a therapist, and that I say that for a multitude of reasons. The number one reason for me being that I am very bad at not letting my personal experiences cloud my advice. Like all of what I say is should be viewed through the lens of, this is crispy talking. Like my experiences affect like what I'm about to say here. So, I do want to clarify that. Because the reason I feel a lot of these things is because I've experienced a lot of these things. So there's your clarification. In my experience, people who don't take criticism very well are really hard for me to deal with too. Like I have had some really negative experiences with those people. And obviously like, I don't want to like, trash your relationship with this person. That's not what I'm trying to say. Now, I do think if you have to tiptoe around that much, it's something that I think is worth bringing up directly, like asking her, why, or sorry, I don't actually remember their pronouns, but asking them why do you feel this way? Why do you respond to criticism in this way? And is there a way that we can, do it that makes you comfortable? Because at the end of the day, sometimes we're going to need to have constructive critique between the party in order to make this game better. And if you keep on responding like this, it's going to be hard for us to do that. That is a conversation I think that's worth having. And if that's a conversation that you're afraid of because you're afraid that this person is going to react in a really extreme way, I think that is also something worth considering. That fear itself is something that's worth at least considering, because I ignored that feeling for a while in my own life, where I had a person who was really sensitive to losing and criticism, and it became a big problem that I never addressed, and it was rough. Now, again, I don't know this person. I'm not trying to say they're a bad person or anything, but, I think it's something that is worth addressing. As to how to talk about this specific issue, I mean, I always like the sandwich method in terms of how I deliver criticism. I almost always give criticism with a compliment. Compliment first, then criticism, then compliment. Use and when you do it. So, for example, think of something that you genuinely like about them, because it's good to remind people what they're good at. I always say this. You only have time in your life to get good at a handful of things. So you should be proud of those things, because remember, you're probably bad at most other things, right? So yeah, it's okay to remind people what they're good at. So yeah, start out with that. Like, think of something that you genuinely like about them. Like maybe, their role play is really strong. Hey, I think your role play is really strong. And I also think that if you were to not be so bossy around the other character, maybe not the word bossy, but if you say, and I think if you were to let other characters, have input in the plans, I think that your role play could be even stronger. Like, use the criticism as a way to frame it as improvement for not just the whole group, but for them as well. They're part of the group. Your criticism ideally is trying to improve the game. Frame it like that. Frame it as, I'm trying to improve the game. Here's how we'll not only improve the game, but make it more fun for you. Because at the end of the day, like, look, we're all a little bit self-centered to a degree. And, realizing that and factoring that in when you're talking to someone, that's important. If you factor in, like, hey, this person might, feel like they're being attacked. If you frame the criticism as, hey, this will make not only the group better, but you better, I think that really helps. But, I don't know this person really well, so I can't say, like, I don't know what triggers their emotions when it comes to criticism. I don't know what words to tiptoe around. I think that you need to find it in your own heart and mind to figure that out yourself. But I will say at the end that method has worked for me, though sometimes, and this is, again, my experience, when people are that sensitive to criticism, it is something that needs to be addressed, because at the end of the day, especially in D&D, you're going to lose. You're going to get criticized out of game, in game, and that kind of mentality, especially in a friendship, it's just rough. It can be really, really rough. So I recommend having at least a conversation about it. Though again, I don't know the full context of the situation, 1 minute, 30-second voicemail and all that, but thank you for your question, and I hope you have a nice day and a wonderful campaign.
So this is a bit more of an experience rather than like a specific story, and I would honestly just love to hear some advice, and maybe to hear that maybe I'm thinking more in the right direction, or if maybe I'm just thinking a bit like unusual for tabletop role-playing games. But I've experienced now that when you make a character, you make their backstory, and you're playing this overarching world with this overarching plot. Eventually, every character in the group gets to have their little like arc for the character. And once their arc is done, there's nothing really to do as far as like the background is concerned left in the story. Like it is finished, it's wrapped in a little bow, now you can do the main quest. And I don't feel like that's a satisfying approach to tabletop role-playing games. Like, why can't like there be bits and pieces of the backstory throughout the entire story, rather than just have like one chunk of it? Because that has been my experience now with being a player for the last few times, and I don't like it, and I wish it could be done differently. And like that's the way I've thought about maybe a solution.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting. It was a little bit hard for me to hear. I don't know if I'm going to fix that on your end. But basically, what this person is saying is they have had an experience in tabletop games where once a character's arc and backstory hook is done, completed, there's not really much for them to do. They get kind of trapped in a little limbo. And first and foremost, I think this represents two methods of character backstory integration. And obviously, this isn't universal. I watch Critical Role a lot, so that's why I use these as the names. But it's Campaign 2 versus Campaign 3, Matt Mercer's styles for the Mighty Nine and Bell's Hells. In Mighty Nine, Matt Mercer primarily focuses on a character at a time. Not gets her big arc. Ford gets his big arc, and they each have pretty distinct endings. Obviously, characters get character moments throughout, but Matt's focus shifts between characters, so they each get big moments consecutively, one at a time, basically. Again, not to say that all the other characters get the shaft, because in that method, the party facilitates the role play between the characters who aren't having the focus right now. During Caduceus' arc, we get to see how the rest of the party interact with him and his family. During Ford's arc, we get to see the rest of the party react to his relationship with Ukatoa and how they carry him through that. During Traveler Con with Jester, we get to see how the rest of the party integrate themselves into this crazy event. Their stories aren't done. They're just sharing the story with somebody else. It's a really I think it relies a lot. This method relies a lot on the players' relationships. Like, if the Critical Role cast didn't know each other really well, I don't think this would have worked nearly as well, because having these other characters so plainly not be in the DM's line of sight means that it's on the party to bring them in. And I think the party was really, really, really good at that. Basically, everyone always had something to do. That's part of the reason why Critical Role Campaign 2 worked so damn well, because the players had such good chemistry and their characters worked together so well. So when the focus was on Ford, it's not like everyone else took a back seat, Like, Bo was instrumental in helping Ford out with Ivantico. Like, that was a huge, huge character moment for her, and that was definitely not within her arc. During Traveler Con, Yasha came out of her shell a lot after a really, very heartbreaking and traumatic experience. She was having all this fun and loving and attention from all of her friends. It was a big deal for her character, and that was during Jester's arc. It shows the strength of that system. I don't think that system of having a character arc consecutively with each player character, I don't think that's a broken system that doesn't work. Because if you have a party with good enough chemistry, they can bring each other into the story so that you don't feel irrelevant. Now, the method that you're proposing is also not bad, because that's what Matt does in the next campaign with Bell's Hells. In Campaign 3, we're like 50 episodes deep, so he might change it with the 50 remaining episodes. But so far, backstories have been breadcrumbed. We get a little bit of each at a time. Obviously, big campaign shaking shakeups. Big campaign shaking shakeups. They shift the whole dichotomy, right? Like when, spoiler alert for Critical Role Campaign 3. At this point, you must have heard. But, spoiler, Laudna dies in Critical Role Campaign 3, and obviously at that moment, Laudna's backstory had to take a huge focus because the focus was now on reviving her. But even in that, all the other players had backstory hooks introduced. Like, if you remember, during her death, we got a vision from Ashton, a vision for Fern, a vision for Chetney. All of their hooks got spotlighted, which was really cool. And that whole moment with Laudna's death, that was during a major story beat for Imogen. Now you can see how that method is being employed in real time, where, like you said as the caller, every single player is getting their own focus, not necessarily in big arcs, but more like in breadcrumbs spread throughout the campaign. This also works, but it's more on the DM. The DM needs to put in a lot more backbone here, at least in my opinion. It depends on just what you're comfortable doing as a party. I think the big horror story that can arise here is when players don't get the focus, when players get sidelined, so to speak. And I think that this can absolutely happen from a story perspective, especially, like, my group is not really experienced with role-playing, so sometimes we can kind of, like, forget. But honestly, that lack of experience kind of helps, because no one feels like in my party that they should be not talking because their character wouldn't do that. They don't really think of it like that. They think, no, that's stupid. I want to interact with this. I understand what's going on. Let me interact. Like, that's the way they understand it, and that's great because now everyone can interact despite, maybe it doesn't make much sense that Flint Strider the Ranger would be interacting with this arcane professor from another player's backstory, but it's fun and it's cool and it works. No one's stealing the spotlight from anyone else. Everyone's having fun, and that conversation between the two was great. Yeah, the pirate captain and the NPC magic professor probably wouldn't interact as well as they are in the game. Sorry, I forgot to turn my ringer off. How unprofessional of me. Again, I was playing Geometry Dash. I turned it on so I could hear the epic music. But look, point is, yeah, those characters wouldn't interact maybe as directly as they did in my game, but because of that lack of roleplay experience, it honestly kind of like opened it up a little bit more. So I guess it depends. I think that your point, the point that the caller brought up, is valid, though that fear of missing out, that fear of letting go of player characters and having them kind of like set sideline after their arc is complete, I think that's not really a problem of method. I think it's a problem of DMs and players not bringing in the quiet guy. DMs and players kind of forgetting that character is there. It sounds harsh, but in my experience, that is what happens a lot of the time, where we can kind of get sidetracked with doing our own thing, with having our own story, that we forget, like, hey, there's other people here too. And yeah, there you go. I think both methods, Campaign 2, Mighty 9, Campaign 3, Bells, Hells, Breadcrumbs, and Big Arcs, both work. Both work really, really well. But I think for what you're describing, caller, the problem of characters kind of feeling bland and left out, I think that's more on the players and the DM to handle rather than an issue of method.
Hey, so I'm a big fan, and I haven't really had anything pretty bad happen to me in a while, and this technically didn't happen to me, but I don't know what to do about it. So I'm in a Thursday game. It's basically about a monarchy in a ruling kingdom, and it's really interesting, and there is a few things that are weird. It's theater of mind, a whole bunch of lore, but the weird thing is how the DM has NPCs and flirting happen. Most recently, there was a player who started a romance with a knight who guards the king, and the DM had the NPC kiss the player, and then asked if it was the end of the date or fade black. The player side was the DM's choice, so they went to fade to black, and then the next day when the player went to go talk to her Pegasus, the flying horse, he said he smelled fornication on her, so I don't know what to do, if I should bring it up or not, because the player seemed like they felt really uncomfortable and embarrassed about it, and so yeah, I don't know what to do. Any advice would be great.
Okay, so I don't really understand what the situation was. Not to say that's not valid. Did they screw on the horse? Was it like a Witcher reference or something? I know that happens in The Witcher. I actually haven't played the game or done anything with that franchise. I just know that happens because of memes. Was that what you were implying? Anyway, look, point is that, look, if the player behind the situation, if the player feels uncomfortable, first step, talk to them about it. Like, don't go straight to the DM, because for all you know, there might not be a problem. Like, that player might be totally okay with this. Now, if you're not okay with this, if you feel really uncomfortable, like, listening to that kind of description, Now, that's a different thing. But if you're doing this because you think that player is uncomfortable, confirm it first. Ask that player, hey, are you uncomfortable? And if they say yes, then talk to them about it and see if you can present a united front to the DM. Both of you, don't attack the DM, but just say, hey, we both felt X thing. Because if two people feel something, it makes that one person feel a lot less isolated. That's a big, big thing here. Now, if they say no, they don't feel uncomfortable, but you feel uncomfortable, that is something you need to discuss with that player as well, because they might have enjoyed that little joke or reference or whatever. And obviously you don't want to yuck someone's yams, but if you feel uncomfortable, that's still valid. That's still something that's absolutely valid. So I think, again, discussion, talk with that player and the DM and see if it's something that is going to be a continuous theme or if it's a joke that they just need to stop. Because frankly, if it is just a joke, like a one-off reference and not like a big deal for the campaign, frankly, stuff like that, I don't really understand why people get so heated over things like that. Like, I know that it happens like a lot. People get really heated over it. But frankly, like, I remember there was a time where, I know this might be a tangential reference, but some of my party members were making like a joke about my voice, and that made me feel kind of like weird, a little bit insecure, because I at one point was very uncomfortable with my own voice. And when I brought it up with that friend, they said, okay. And then they stopped. And then we moved on with our lives because it was just a joke and it's not a big deal. They just stopped, If it, when people say, it's not a big deal, it's just a joke, then why not just stop, It's the same thing here. Like, if this is the case, I think if it's just like a one-off reference and it does make anyone uncomfortable, I hope that the DM would be okay just letting it go. Because if it's just a one-off thing, then what's the big deal just letting it slide, right? Obviously, for you guys, if it makes you either of you uncomfortable, again, worth talking about. So yeah, there you go. I hope that helps you out. Again, not a super complicated explanation or situation, but I do think it's valid for you to talk about it because, again, letting these kind of things fester, never a good idea. And that is going to be it for voicemails for today. We have one last thing before we close out the show, a little thing I'm going to end off with. We ripped off voicemails from the podcast, Kelsey Kreppel's podcast, Circle Time. We're going to rip off another thing, not from Circle Time, but from Evan and Caitlin. I'm a huge Evan and Caitlin fan, in case you couldn't tell by me repeatedly repeating words are hard, which is something that's a bit of a theme on their channel. But yeah, I got it from them, by the way, in case you were wondering where I got it from. But point is, we're going to rip off another one of their segments from their podcast, Thing of the Week. So yeah, cue the thing. So yeah, this week, my Thing of the Week, I kind of spoiled it, but The Last of Us television show. Thing of the Week is The Last of Us television show. For me, this was obvious. There's a lot of stuff that I'm really enthusiastic about this week. I mean, obviously Legends of Vox Machina, but we talked about that for like 20 minutes already. So Last of Us, it is an amazing, amazing, incredible show. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted, a beautiful words are hard. A beautiful adaptation of a beautiful game. So well done. I didn't know what to expect from Pedro Pascal as Joel, but he is knocking it out of the park. Bella Ramsey, I had my doubts, but she's knocking it out of the park. This show deserves the praise it is getting from pretty much everybody right now. It is so worth watching. If you have HBO Max, stop what you're doing right now, get on the TV, and watch this crap. It is the best zombie apocalypse thing ever in history. It's not even close. I don't even know why The Walking Dead bothers to exist when quality like this is around. Like, I remember the games being good, but this not only adapts the games really, really faithfully, but also makes some tasteful changes to not just adapt to the screen, but also change up some stuff that was done specifically for gameplay so that they can improve the story. Like, for example, in the show, we get a lot more flashbacks. In the game, that wouldn't really work, but here, since it's a different medium, we get different stories from different perspectives in our flashbacks, which is really, really cool. Certain things that were done for like gameplay variety are taken out here because, again, it's not a video game, it's a show. And now we can revel in more story beats because we are in a different medium. Amazing. I think that this is just an excellently done zombie apocalypse story with some amazing characters, some amazing horror, and some really good action. Overall, super impressed, and yeah, I'm happy to say that The Last of Us show, even though I didn't know what to expect going into it, is certainly my Thing of the Week. And with that, we are going to end today's episode of Tavern Adjacent. I hope you guys enjoyed that new segment. I hope to continue doing it. I just want to like talk about some stuff that's not tabletop related because there's more to my life than just rolling dice, and I want to talk about some of those things. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. By the way, well, actually, I was about to do a comment thing, but we'll do that at the end. We'll do it properly. If you guys enjoyed this episode of Tavern Adjacent, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tips series. It will be returning this weekend, I hope. I know it's been a few weeks, but yeah, that series is where I go over tips for DMs and players, old and new, and while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave your own thing of the week in the description, in the comments. You can't type in the description, that's my job. Yeah, head down in the comments, tell me your thing of the week, the thing that you're just really excited about, or that's hyped you up, or brought you a lot of joy this past week. And that's like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.